Today we are going to work on percent proportions practice. Friday you watched video notes over this concept. Yesterday we did a guided practice over it. We're going to continue practicing today and tomorrow, and then Thursday you have a quiz. Remember, all quizzes are open note, so make sure that you have everything that we are working on for percent proportions. Let's go ahead and get started. If you haven't submitted Friday and Monday's assignments, please make sure you do so as they are late. So first I'm going to write the two proportions that we use. They're the same proportion, we just have two different ways of saying it. So whichever way makes sense to you. We have part over whole equals percent over 100. Okay, and then our second proportion is over of equals percent over 100. So part is the same thing or equal to the is, and whole is the same thing or equal to the of. Okay, so let's read number one. Well, number one tells us to find the part. So from looking over here, that means that this is my x. Okay, so it says 82% of 50 is, we don't know. So of equals 50 is equals x. And then this is your percent. So we have is over of equals 82 over 100. We're going to cross multiply here. We have 100, x equals 50 times 82. Okay, so 50 times 82. 2 times 0 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10. 0 for a place value holder. 0 times 5 is 0. And 8 times 0 is 0. And 8 times 5 is 40. We add all these numbers up and we get 4100. So we have 100x equals 4100. So then our final step would be to get x by itself. We do that by dividing by 100 on each side. So 4100 divided by 100 goes into 0 times, 41 0 times, and 410 4 times. 410 minus 400 is 10. Bring your 0 down, and 100 goes into 100 one time. Okay, so then x equals 41. Remember, that's your part. Okay, so on this problem, it asks you to find the whole, which is the bottom of the first ratio and represented by the word of. Okay, so it says 25%. So I'm going to write 25% of what number? So this is telling you that of is your x is 20. Okay, so this is of, which is your whole number, and is, which is your part. Okay, so let's set up our ratio. Part goes first, or is goes first. So your part is 20 over your of. Okay, so that is this right here. So of is your x, which equals 25 over 100. Okay, so we remember that our first step whenever we have a proportion is to cross multiply. So we have 25x equals 20 times 100. Okay, go ahead and press pause and solve this problem, and press play when you know what x is. Okay, so you should have gotten x is 80. If you did not get that, then we'll want to press pause and double check our work and make sure that we find our mistake, and then continue on. Okay, so we're going to jump to problem 4 and find the percent using a proportion. So now we are using percent to find proportion, so that's going to be the top of the second ratio here. Okay, so it says what percent, so of course percent is what we're looking for. Let's see, my pen's not working, 1 second. Okay, what percent of 240 is 60. So you can see why we don't just say part over whole, because a lot of these problems of and is are dominant. So if we could memorize is over of equals percent over 100, we'll be really good at setting up our proportions. So your is right here. This is your part, and this is your whole. Okay, so you should have 60 over 240 equals x over 100. Okay, so then of course, so we cross multiply here. 240x equals 60 times 100. Okay, so 100 times 60. 0 times 0 is 0, 0 times 0 is 0, 0 times 1 is 0. We have 0 place value holder. 0 times 6 is 0, 0 times 6 is 0, and 0 times 6 is, 6 times 1 is 6. Then we add these values, and we get 240x equals 6,000. Okay, so our last step here is to divide by 240. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and say 240 times 2. 0, 4 times 2 is 8, 2 times 2 is 4. That's going to be, so it goes in 2 times exactly, minus 480. 0, we have to borrow right here, make that a 10, and make that a 5. 10 minus 8 is 2, and then 5 minus 4 is 1. So bring this down, and then we need to know how many times 24 goes into 1200. So we're going to come over here, and I'm going to guess 5. Okay, so 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. Oh, looky there. Exactly 5 times minus 1200 is 0. So we have x equals 25. Okay, so now we're going to get into word problems and do some problem solving. So it says determine whether you are finding the part, whole, or percent, and then set up and solve a proportion. So here it says 56 of 224. So of goes here. So 56 of 224 students ordered a spirit shirt. So if we just take a minute and digest that sentence, 56 of 224 students ordered a spirit shirt. To me, we have a part and a whole. 56 of the 224 students, that is a part of the students, right? What percent, so this is our X, of the students ordered a spirit shirt. Okay, so go ahead and set up your proportion, and then press play when you have finished. Okay, so this should be your proportion. 56 over 224 equals x over 100. And then we're going to cross multiply and solve this problem. So go ahead and press pause. If you don't have this proportion correct, you're going to fix it. And then you're going to cross multiply and divide. Okay, so you should have gotten X is 25. If you did not get that, go ahead and press pause one more time and find your mistake and correct it, okay? And then press play when you have finished. Okay, so now we're going to move to number 7. And number 7 says 45 pumpkins were sold. So 45 were sold at It's Pumpkin Time Farm, which is 36.5% of all the pumpkins. How many pumpkins are there in all? How many pumpkins are in there in all? Let's think about that. In all. That is your total, which is your whole. And this is a part. This is the part of the pumpkins that were sold. Okay, so let's set this up. There is 45 as your part, X as your whole, and percent over 100. I'm sorry, the percent over 100, which is 37.5% over 100. So we're going to cross multiply. 37.5x equals 45 times 100. 37.5x equals 45 times 100 is 4,500. And then our last step here is to divide by 37.5. Okay, so when we set this up, 4,500 divided by 37.5. Remember, we don't divide by decimals. So we're going to move this decimal over one time to the right, have a decimal in the back, and move it one time to the right. Add your decimal 0, and you're going to bring that decimal straight up. Okay, so 375 goes into 450 one time, minus 375. We have to borrow here, and that becomes a 4. 10 minus 5 is 5. So we have to borrow again, and that becomes a 3. So we have 14 minus 7. Okay, and that is 7. And then, so we're going to bring this 0 down. And we're going to say 375 times 2. That's 10. 2 times 7 is 14. Plus 1 is 5. And then 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. Beautiful. Love it when it works out that way. So it's 750 minus 0. And then we have one more 0 to bring down. And of course, 375 goes into 0 times. Okay, so that means that X equals 120. So what does that mean? That means 45 pumpkins were sold, which is 37.5% of all pumpkins. So this is total pumpkins. Okay, so that is all for the video. You're going to go ahead and finish the other 5 problems on your own and submit a picture of your work.